This is part 2 of our introduction to the Pythagorean Theorem. A squared plus b squared equals c squared fits all right triangles where a and b are the legs and c is the hypotenuse. What we're going to do in part 2 is show how to find a missing side using the Pythagorean Theorem. We need a right triangle. Where the two legs come together, they form the 90-degree angle known as a right angle, and we make a little symbol like that to designate the right angle. Let's go ahead and give some values for a couple of the sides. For the short leg, let's say that one is 5. The hypotenuse, let's say, is 13. And let's suppose that we don't know this longer leg, the one that's longer than the 5 but shorter than the 13, because the hypotenuse is always the longest. We're going to make this one x. Now, those numbers, 5, x, and 13, fit in the Pythagorean Theorem. Again, it doesn't matter which one's a or b to the extent that a and b are interchangeable, but it does matter that you choose the correct numbers for a and b. In this case, it's always the legs. The legs being, these sides right here. Here and here. So let's say 5 can be a, and so that'll be 5 squared. The other leg is x, that's x squared. And that's going to equal the hypotenuse. Hypotenuse is 13, and that's going to be 13 squared. Alright, so now let's solve this equation for x. 5 squared is 5 times 5, or 25. And x squared, we still don't know what that is. 13 times 13 is 169. Now in order to solve for x, we want to isolate or get x by itself. This 25 is kind of in the way. We'd like to put it to the other side so we can get x by itself. So what I'm going to do here is subtract 25 from each side. And so now that's going to be gone. I'm going to have x squared equals 169 minus 25, which is 144. Now we want to find the value of x. Well, what number squared equals 144? If we take the square root of each side, the square root of x squared is x, and the square root of 144 is 12, because 12 times 12 is 144. Now in some cases, x could be negative. Certainly negative 12 times negative 12 does equal 144, but in this case we know it has to be a positive value, so we'll rule out the negative value of negative 12 and be satisfied that the missing leg is 12. If we want to do a quick check of our answer, we could say, okay, then 5 squared plus 12 squared, that's that x, should equal 13 squared, and of course it does. 5 times 5 is 25, 12 squared is 144, and together they do add up to what 13 squared happens to be, which is 169. So 169 equals 169. So we've used the Pythagorean Theorem, a squared plus b squared equals c squared, to find the missing leg in this triangle. X is 12.